Now we will move on to the vertical integration. So, vertical integration, firms consider vertical integration producing inputs internally rather than buying them from the market only when market transactions become too costly or risky. So, when we talk about vertical integration means ang pagsasama ng iba't ibang stages ng production o distribution under one company. Example is, kapag ang isang kumpanya ay, ang business niya is about sa food, so, pwede siyang magkaroon ng farm to produce the ingredients and pwede din siyang magkaroon ng restaurant para magamit, para sa paggawa ng mga foods at magamit yung mga pinoproduce niya na ingredients from farm. So, in that case, lahat ng nasa ilalim ng isang kumpanya, para sa mas madali siya na makontrol yung quality, yung price, yung cost, and yung supply chain ng business. Now, why contracts may fail? First, when specialized investment generate transaction costs due to opportunism, bargaining, or underinvestment. When the product is extremely complex, when the economic environment is plagued by uncertainty, and complete contracts become extremely costly or impossible to write. So, bakit nga ba nagkakaroon or bakit nga ba maaaring mag-fail yung contracts? Kapag ang contracts maaaring mag-fail siya kapag hindi nagkaroon ng klarong specs on quality. Kapag hindi na-enforce ang delivery process or nagkakaroon ng mga delayed shipments, may possibility na masira ang pinag-usapan nyo. Kapag nagkaroon ng price fluctuation, yung tumataas na cost ng ng raw materials like presyo ng, for example, presyo ng cotton, ganon. And opportunistic behavior ng seller or ng supplier. So, supplier, sinasamantala niya sa yung presyo. Example, yung kapag may textile contract, tumataas ang presyo ng cotton, tapos hindi nasabi ng sa contract na tataas pala yung presyo nun, may possibility na masira yung napag-usapan nyo kasi magkakaroon ng changes in price. So, now we have the advantage and disadvantage of pakat na lang yun ha. Now we have the advantages and disadvantages of contract. So, the advantages of contract, first is, firm skips the middleman by producing its own inputs. Second, reduces opportunism by uniting distinct firms into division of one integrated firm. Now, we have the disadvantages of a contract. First, must replace market discipline with internal regulatory mechanism. Second, a difficult task often feeling like in non-market economics. Third, firm bears the cost of setting up new production facilities. Fourth is may produce inputs only tangentially related to its core business. And last is the loss of specialization. Now, let's proceed to the economic trade-off. So, when we tackle about the economic trade-off, it's like about balancing life, no? It's like, kapag may binigay ka, for sure, merong kapalit. So, think of it like it's time versus money. So, mag-overtime ka sa trabaho para makakuha ka ng extra pay. Parang yun yung example. It's like the example of the economic trade-off. So, now, let's proceed to the optimal procurement of input. So, in this slide, it outlines the decision-making process for choosing the cost-minimizing method of acquiring an input based on the characteristics of the input, particularly regarding specialized investment and the complexity of the contracting environment. Okay. Decision 1. Decision 1 are substantial specialized investment required relative to contracting cost? If no, use spot exchange. This means the input is generic and doesn't require a long-term or relationship-specific investment. No major risk of opportunism, so buying on the open market is sufficient. If yes, proceed to the second decision. Okay, decision 2. Is the contracting environment complex relative to the cost of integration? If no, use a contract. Even though there are specialized investment, if contracts can be written and enforced relatively easily, it's efficient to rely on a contract with the supplier. If yes, use vertical integration. If it's hard to write and enforce a contract due to then it's cheaper to own the supplier. So, this process involves two key decisions. The first decision is specialized investment versus contracting cost. And the second decision is all about contracting environment complexity versus integrating cost. So in decision 1, the first decision assesses whether substantial specialized investment are required relative to the cost of contracting. If no, specialized investments are needed. A spot exchange is recommended as the input is generic and buying on the open market is sufficient due to a low risk of opportunism. If specialized investment are required, the process of proceeds to the second decision. Then the decision 2 is all about contracting environment complexity versus integration cost. So the second decision evaluates the complexity of the contracting environment compared to the cost of integration. If the contracting environment is not complex and contracts can be easily written and enforced, then using a contract with a supplier is a sufficient choice. Even with specialized investment, if the contracting environment is complex, making it difficult to write and enforce contract, and there is a high risk of opportunism, then vertical integration is deemed more cost-effectively. Now, let's continue to the managerial compensation and the principal-agent problems. After choosing the best method to acquire the inputs, firms must motivate employees effectively. Compensation methods vary depending on the job and desired performance. The section begins by exploring managerial compensation, especially in large firms where there's a separation between ownership and control. This separation leads to an incentive problem since owners aren't present to directly monitor managers. There are risks managers won't always act in the owner's best interest. Next, we will proceed to the principal-agent problem. So, separation of ownership and controls. First, we have the owner, which is the principals. Typically, stockholders who invest capital but are not involved in daily operation. Managers, or what you call agents, hired to run the firm day to day. So, the difference of the owners and the managers, owners are the one who own the business. Pero they are not present during the operation or during the day-to-day operation of the firm or the business. The managers naman is they're the one who are always present because they're the one who in charge in planning, leading, staffing, organizing, and controlling the business and the staff also. So that's the difference of owners and managers. Because owners are not physically present, they cannot easily monitor the manager's effort. This lack of oversight creates a potential conflict of interest. So, dahil nga hindi palaging present ang mga owner, may possibility na yung mga manager are not acting what's supposed to be na dapat ina-act nila as managers. May possibility na sometimes yung mga